Beyond the Finish Line, and today we have John Swain, founder of the Zip Running Company. Today we will sit down with and chat with John and get to know him a bit and talk to him about a story and the story behind this fantastic run and bike commute pack. Also, friends of the pod, feel free to submit questions or comments, and we will get to those throughout the podcast episode. Also, if you're digging the pod, feel free to give us a follow, a share, a like, a review on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. So without further ado, let's bring John forward and sit down for this chat with him.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, John. Nice to meet you in real life, and thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
So I figured we just get in the deep end and just tell me a bit about John. Who is John Swain?
Sure. I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm a runner, a run commuter, and a designer, and now the founder of Zip Running Company.
Nice. Okay. Let me double back. So let me tell you a little bit of story about how I got in touch with John, I guess. So I started run commuting about 8 months ago, and I went through a few different style backpacks, and I was really struggling with them. They would either chafe me really bad, or they just wouldn't carry the weight very well. And I was training for a backyard, so I follow. I'm a huge fan of Big Dog's Backyard. I follow Harvey Lewis, and Harvey Lewis run commutes, and I figured I'm going to do what the greats do. So one day I was on his Instagram page, and I sent him a message and asked him where he got his pack, and he was actually kind enough to send me a link to this pack, and I bought it right on the spot. And within a few days, I had that pack and was on my way to run commuting with that pack, run and bike commuting. And it's just been an awesome tool, for training and running. Running ultra distance, it can sometimes feel like a part-time job getting your mileage in, and run commuting has freed up a lot of time where I get to spend that time with my family and not necessarily, spending 6 hours in the woods every Saturday. So yeah, just a shout out to your pack, man. It's fantastic. So, take me to where zip running came from. How did it come to be?
Sure. Yeah. So that's, a quick shout out to Harvey Lewis, actually.
Yeah.
Thanks for, without him, I don't think you and I would be sitting here having this discussion. And actually, without him, I don't know, it's not a given that zip running would exist right now. Because he has been such an amazing ambassador for run commuting and, well, the sport. I mean, everything he does, the sport of ultramarathoning, any type of running, actually. But he is our number one elite athlete that we sponsor, and he's the real deal. He has been he run commutes for a couple miles each way, and he's done that for 11 years to his job as a middle school teacher in Cincinnati. And then obviously, I think he tacks on a few miles, like he loops through Kentucky, maybe the entire tri-state area. And when I met him, he had like an entire pizza in his bag, I think, because he might get hungry when he's on his way home, as I'm sure you might, Joe. But yeah, I can take you through a little bit about the origins of Zip if you'd like.
Yeah, please do.
Sure. So Zip goes back to my days as a design student at the University of Cincinnati, which is where I met Harvey Lewis, actually. So I was doing my thesis, and for your thesis, they typically in school you don't necessarily get to dig really deep into a topic and research it properly or come out with a prototype that's as realistic as a thesis is. And so I guess I should back up. I was studying industrial design, which is most people aren't familiar with that term. So that's product design, like doing anything that's smaller than a house and not in a computer. So an iPhone. Johnny Ive is probably the world's most famous industrial designer for Apple. Like a toilet brush, anything you use every day, chairs, furniture, sporting goods, backpacks, medical devices, anything that interacts with a person and needs to be ergonomic, easy to use, and potentially fit into your lifestyle well. Usually, an industrial designer is involved. So that's what I was studying. And for your thesis, the professors want you to dig into a topic and go deep. And hopefully, I think also a good thesis should have a social aspect, solve a real world problem, give something back. It shouldn't just be making a toaster look a little nicer, or like sketching a nice side view of a running shoe or something like that. It should be an innovative toaster or running shoe that is better. So I didn't know what to do when we had to come up with our thesis, but they give you some time to think about it. And I had been in London a few years earlier at the University of Cincinnati. They have this fantastic internship program, and I did a bunch of internships at design consulting firms all over the place. And I had one in Belgium, and we were designing like streetcars and trams and stuff like that. And on the way to my internship, I had a layover in London, and I was walking along the Thames at like 5 p.m. right around rush hour. And I was a runner, obviously, and I started seeing all these joggers going by, and they had small backpacks on. And which seems strange to me, is that you don't typically, unless you're in London or New York or a hotbed of run community, you don't typically see joggers in an urban environment carrying what looks like hiking gear or like small backpacks. And they're stuffed full of something. Like, it was very clear to me that it wasn't just water in there. They like almost the exact shape that like your outfit would be if you crammed it into a backpack, interestingly enough, which I'm sure was exactly what was in there. And it wasn't just one person. It was, I probably saw three to five runners that afternoon along the Thames, running with packs. And that was kind of in the back of my mind. And then I didn't think too much of it until I was in New York City working at a different design firm, and I was living in Brooklyn, and I like to go running after work. And all of a sudden that scene from London popped into my head, and I was one day at work, I brought in running clothes, and I didn't have a good backpack, and it didn't occur to me to use my whatever backpack I had. It didn't seem like it would work well, so I didn't use it. So I just stuffed all my work clothes under my desk. I grabbed my cell phone, my subway card, and I'd taken the train into work, and my house keys, and I put them in a small zippered pouch in the back of my running shorts. And this was back when cell phones were a little bit smaller, so that was a little more feasible. But they're good. There actually are some probably pretty good shorts these days. But anyway, so I just ran home from Manhattan to Brooklyn with carrying nothing. And I ran over the Manhattan Bridge and through Williamsburg, and through the like Hasidic Jewish neighborhood, like which I'd never been in before. And so it was this beautiful run through off the beaten path neighborhoods that most people would never run through in New York. Plus the running over, if you've never been to New York or never done this, definitely run over one of the big bridges over the East River. It's amazing. And the Brooklyn Bridge is usually full of tourists, but if you go early, that's an amazing run right there. That's a world-class urban run. And that was my commute home from work. I started just running home from the office, and it would take me less time than the subway, or about the same time if I ran directly. is it was probably by the time you took up all these transfers, it would be like 45, 50 minutes. Um, and so and then I saw a few other people on the bridge, because the bridges are these choke points and they funnel everyone who happens to be going on foot from one part of New York to the other. So there weren't that many run commuters at that point, but they'd all be on the bridge at 5 p.m. And so I would invariably see somebody running with a backpack, and I started stopping people, saying, "All right, just to make sure, are you running home from work? Okay, me too. Cool." So anyway, that was the first kind of light bulb moment when I realized how, like you were saying, Joe, run commuting is all about uh, killing you know, killing two stones with one bird, I think they say.
Yeah. Oh, something I know this is off the beaten path, but you mentioned something about carrying a full pizza in the pack, and I just wanted to add that I actually transported some red velvet cake cupcakes last week in the pack, just like a little 4-pack, and they survived beautiful. I don't know if it speaks to the pack, obviously, but it also speaks to how awesome the bakery package those cupcakes. But yeah, that made me think about bringing home cupcakes for my family. But um, yeah, that's awesome, man. Like, I need to travel. I need to travel more. I haven't been in New York since I was a kid, but yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, you got like a good look at your demographic, and that's just kind of where like you realize there was a need for this pack, and that's awesome, man. Well, we have a comment from YouTube too. Philly Pierre mentioned that in Philly they carry small bags with hiking gear all the time, hammock bags that convert to clothes as well. Huh, that's very interesting.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, and also, like I kind of live in like a running island, so I'm the only person out running and run commuting in the mornings. But so there for a while, I noticed that people probably looking at me like, man, what's this person doing? But so so let's kind of unpack that further. So from like having that thought to actually holding like a finished pack, like what was that time frame? Like what was that like too? Like to actually hold the finished zip pack?
That's a great point that you brought up. Finishing or holding a new sample from a factory or prototype you make yourself is extremely exciting. I think it's more exciting if it comes from the factory, because you haven't seen it yet, and you've maybe sent out drawings, and all of a sudden you get back the physical version of that, which is amazing. And that's also where in the design process where the rubber meets the road is actually trying on the pack and seeing how it wears. You can't. Backpacks are something that you can't design in 2 dimensions. You have to physically be wearing it. But so yeah, zip has been kind of a slow burn over the years, and it continues to be a little bit of a slow burn. I'm hoping it's accelerating now, but it was also in the background for a little while. As I was working other jobs, and now it's my full-time thing. But it went so that when I was running on the Manhattan Bridge and having this run commute epiphany, that was probably 2016. And then I was graduating from the University of Cincinnati in 2017. And at that point, that was just a student project, and it wasn't intended to be in any way a commercialized product or a business. Now, because of the nature of the thesis, it was more involved, and it was essentially sort of ready to turn into a real product, but it actually wasn't at all at that point. It was, I hadn't been taking it that seriously. It was just, I figured if I'm going to spend all this time working on something, it might as well be something that interests me and seems like it solves a problem. So it was only later that, so I did the first version of what would ultimately become the Zip's first product, the Commute Pack, in school in 2017. But it was nothing like it. It had very little in common. It wasn't a roll top. It was actually like this crazy fold flat backpack, of which there are a few in the world. And I guess there's like gradations of how fold flat your backpack is. But it was like a 4-part flap. Like it would fold open and then open again.
Oh.
And the idea was it would, like a roll top, it has kind of built-in compression, and it had these sleeves for your outfit. So if you were like a lawyer and you had a suit, you could fold up your outfit and tuck it into this pocket, and hopefully it would be perfectly pressed when you got it out of the backpack.
Oh, cool.
So this was this crazy concept car. Like I figured I was designing for my portfolio. I wasn't designing for a real user. And so I wanted something that would be eye-catching and something that would show off my creative thinking and look good on my website. And I ended up using that prototype myself after to run Commute when I was out of school, and I actually hated it because it was so fussy. And so anyway, that was a good lesson. But what I did do was my professors insisted on us doing real ethnographic research, which is something that I believe in very strongly, and something that we practice at Zip Running, and all that means is you go out and you talk to real people who are representative of the people who would be using your product, and you do a deep dive qualitative interview with them. So you might show them some competitive products or prototypes. You might just chat with them about their needs and wants and try to uncover like what one thing we try to find is like if there's any unmet needs to an entrepreneur or a product designer. When we hear unmet needs, we think product and solutions, and for a company that usually means money. So if you're working as a design researcher for a big company, you're trying to find the next big thing and or find out what's wrong with their current product. So I had to recruit run commuters in Cincinnati, and there aren't a ton of run commuters in Cincinnati compared with New York. It isn't as easy as just walking down to the bridge to Covington and flagging down a run commuter. Although you might see Harvey Lewis, you probably will.
Yeah.
So I Googled. I think I Googled run commute Cincinnati, and the only hit that came up was Harvey Lewis's Facebook page, and of course, and I clicked on it and. It's like, wow, this guy's legit. He's an elite ultra marathoner. He has a very active Facebook following, and he is posting about run commuting. That's amazing. So I was like, well, he probably doesn't want to talk to me, but I sent him a message, and he of course wrote back. Because Harvey is actually the nicest person you've ever met. If you ever have a chance to see Harvey, go up and say hi. I'm sure this goes for anyone, not just Joe, but he will probably. Like he answered your DM, he probably will actually take the time to talk to you if he has time. So anyway, he showed up at the design studio at Cincinnati on his run commute home, obviously carrying an entire pizza in his bag. So I was like, well, I need to make my prototype bigger because this guy's got a lot of stuff in here, and I learned a ton from it. And so he had actually the first input into the design constraints that I've been using ever since when I designed backpacks. Some of the first user needs came directly from the ultimate run commuter, Harvey Lewis.
Man, that's so rad. That's so cool. Man, that roll top makes it. I mean, that roll top makes that pack. So I mean, the pack is amazing, but that roll top is it's like icing on the cake with that thing. So that's so cool. Man, so I'm thinking about you designing this thing. So I'm a junior design engineer, but I design like process lines and stuff that I can prove out like through CAD or model, and all that. But you had to prove this out on a human, and everybody's different. Everybody's is different. So I'm just trying to imagine all the different iterations and stuff you had to make. Like, I mean, I know that you can tailor the fit of that pack to your needs, like, right there. But with that, is that like that webbing on the side that you can move up and down? But so I'm just trying to think, like, how difficult was that to get right? I mean, you had to have done like just tons of revisions too to get to final product too.
Yeah, it's quite difficult actually. That's the hardest part of designing a run commute backpack or any type of running vest is getting the fit right, and it's the most important thing to get right.
Yeah.
And it's something that I had practically no experience doing when I started. So, like I probably would have been better served by the fashion design school at Cincinnati, which because I had to teach myself how to sew that semester,
Oh.
and I was sewing up prototypes and jogging down the hall. I would shut my laptop, put it in the prototype, hope that it didn't bust a seam, and I would run down the hall to see how bouncy it was, and then go back in the sewing studio, um, and then that was just at for the first prototype in school, which didn't need to actually be sold to anyone. So it could just look right in a photo or a rendering, and that was fine. But the products we ship now have to be extremely correct. And
Yeah.
I first thought I could get away with like one size and have it be adjustable, which it is adjustable. But it turned out that we needed 3 sizes. Like some running vests go up to 5 sizes, but because ours
Okay.
are so adjustable, we can get away with three
Yeah.
sizes. And the reason for the adjustability is that backpacks flex when you put more or less stuff in them, and they fit
Yeah.
differently. Like if you have a light day, the pack will fit differently than when you stuff it full of your desserts, for instance, or your computer. So what that adjustability does is it allows you to get a custom fit every time, and to take up any slack that might cause bouncing or discomfort. So I had to learn all that during the process of designing everything, and then testing it with myself and other people.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head, man. Like, um, yeah, so many different adjustments. Like, and to your point, like, because I'll grocery shop with my pack too. I have like this kind of like challenge going on. I mean, I still have to drive sometimes to places, but now that my kids are out of school for the summer, I'm like challenging myself to see how long I can go without actually driving my car, which is amazing.
Wow,
Because yeah,
that's awesome.
so I haven't been run commuting the last like 3 or 4 weeks because I've got like a trainer actually coaching me, like, you need to be doing tempo work this day and long run this day. He's just like, I don't want to take run commuting away from you, but let's just focus up on like these workouts. And he's like, I was like, hey, I'm gonna bike commute, and he's just like, all right, like, let's meet in the middle somewhere. So I've been cycle commuting the last a bit, but um, Uh, yeah, man. So you nailed it. I'm assuming this is something that, like, even though you've got the pack, obviously everyone who buys the pack loves it. I couldn't imagine anybody has anything bad to say about it. But you're always constantly having to do these changes too, right? Like, just as you go and grow as a company, and you did it, man. It's beautiful and it's incredibly versatile. Like, I've had grocery shopping trips with my pack. Uh, my laptop, whatever book I'm reading, clothes. It took me a few times. I learned some hard lessons along the way about, put it makes from Harvey, put your lunch on the bottom, put it in a Ziploc bag, and and don't forget your spare pants. I've done that a couple of times.
Yeah. Don't
Got all the
forget.
way to work and I
Actually,
turned around.
here's some trivia. The very first uh, product, or the prototype I made in school, it was called the Zebra, zebra pack at that point, for crosswalks, like in England, the birthplace of run commuting, as far as I can tell. And I actually had a woven label that said, and I embroidered "Don't forget your pants" on it, and it was right on the laptop sleeve and the inside of the pack.
Oh, nice. That's cool. Um, yeah. So we got a question. This is a good one too. Is there a moment while building this business that you thought this is taking too long, or this isn't going to work, and you actually considered walking away from the pack, from zip running?
Yeah, I don't know if there was one moment like that. There's probably quite a few. The, the nice thing was it hasn't been my source of income up until now, and I've been able to prove it out to where I'm fairly confident that it'll at least get me through the next year with some sort of small salary. Um, but yeah, I think that that does cross your mind, especially when you're doing in a kind of completely new category of run commute bags that isn't necessarily going to work. It's not a foregone conclusion that this will work even now. Um, but I've been pretty encouraged by the response to the product and the number of people that do actually run commute. There's more run commuters than you think.
Oh yeah.
Is one thing, and but yeah, I think every entrepreneur, everyone who's trying to put something new out in the world, you question it. You're always questioning: is this the right thing? Is this the right way to do this? And yeah, starting with even the whole concept of the business, is that a viable idea? What's the business model? Is this the right product? And then all these micro decisions about everything that goes into the product. And so you have to be your own worst critic, and you have to look at everything as if you think it'll fail, um, which is hard because you also have to believe it'll work. So you have to be kind of crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I go through that with some of my, some of my stuff too. Like I kind of look for where it will fail or could fail. So I certainly understand that. It's just, I'm just, just that what you're having to work at with that pack. It's just got to be. That's just to me, that's an incredible design feat just to get something that works so well. So, um, so what does success for zip running like look like to you?
Well, the mission of the company is to promote running as a form of transportation and as a form of healthy and sustainable transportation. So the I success looks like um, more run commute adoption in worldwide, but probably starting with the U.S. because that's where we are. Um, and Europe's actually probably ahead of us, but I just see this kind of untapped potential. There's all these people jogging around on their daily run who aren't going anywhere. They're just getting their exercise, but they could just be going somewhere, and which would free up time and reduce carbon emissions. And
Yep.
It's basically free time. It's when I look at good design solutions out there, um, you always look for something that isn't just fulfilling the need, but it's a win-win, or it's a win-win-win-win. And I think run commuting is one of those things. It's kind of like LED lights or electric cars, or like electric cars are a great example. They're um, they're faster, they're easier to maintain, and there's downsides. Obviously, everything's a compromise, but they're more fun to drive. They're ultimately going to cost you less money once we get to an affordable electric car, because there's less wear and tear, and it's better for the environment. So,
Yeah.
and you don't have to go fill up gas; you can just charge it in your garage, so it saves you time. So, I think run commuting's exactly like that. Um, it's not like cycle commuting is bad. Bike commuting is also great, but if you live too close to your job, it's very hard to get a good bike workout in. Whereas
Yeah. Yeah.
3-mile jog is a half decent workout. So I'm just I'm hoping that to take whatever income profits we get from the company to funnel that back into designing world-class performance gear for people who are already run commuting, and then to take the extra profits that we use for marketing to get the word out there and help popularize run commuting, because we're in the early phases of run commute popularity right now. I think it has a lot of growth potential. Like if you think
absolutely.
about, yeah, like 50 years ago, nobody even went jogging. It was something like boxers and like athletes did. It wasn't something everyday people did, and people didn't really bike commute either. And now bike commuting is relatively prevalent in the United States. I mean, it has a long way to go too, but I think run commuting could have the same type of growth curve.
Oh yeah. So I went into it. I went into run commuting and now cycle commuting off and on, kind of just as a way, like I mentioned before, as a way to like get in some extra training and stuff. And then I was like, then I realized, oh, I'm actually, even though I'm just one person, like I'm one person out of all these people that could possibly or are run commuting, I'm also, like you mentioned, I'm reducing my carbon footprint on Earth, which is an even better thing. But something else I've noticed is it's kind of an unintended consequence is just like just my overall mental health. Like after I run commute, I get to work, and first of all, I've already got my exercise in, so I already feel better.
Oh yeah.
But man, it's just like getting that, like just getting that, because I mean, I only my round trip is 3 miles there, 3 miles back, so I get 6 miles in just getting to work and back. But first of all, when I get to work, I'm already feeling great. Like I said, I've ran, I've exercised, I've been in the sun, and then if a day goes bad, that I forget about everything that went wrong within a quarter mile. When I get home, I'm ready. I'm just like I never bring it home because of it, and I feel like just overall, just these unintended consequences that I just get from run commuting, and man, it's just such a great way to kind of unpack your day. Like whatever I'm holding on to is gone. There's no room for it anyways after you run 3 miles. But so yeah, that's just something that I note too about run commuting, on top of all these other awesome benefits. But
absolutely,
yeah,
it's a great mental transition.
yeah.
From your home to your work, and then from work to home.
Like I bet 3/4 of the articles that I write for Run Try Bike are come to me on my commutes. I just carry like a little notebook in that side pocket, and then if I have something come up, I just stop. And so I'd say at least a good portion of all my article ideas or writing ideas, blog post ideas, all come during those times. But I do want to double back about cycle commuting though. With the pack, would there be a need for a different type of bag for bike commuters versus run commuters, you think?
I don't really. Yeah, I haven't thought a lot about that. Other than I try to make sure that the zip products work well for biking, because there's no reason they shouldn't. Basically, I see it as a little bit lower bar for ergonomics. Just because there's much less bouncing. But a lot of the same needs are there. It needs to. I mean, it actually doesn't need to fit quite as well, because there is less bouncing. But it needs to be weatherproof. It's actually handy to have utility pockets on the front for
Yeah.
various personal items. That's not a bad thing. It's kind of like in designing for the extreme, which is running. You solve any issue someone would have biking. I should note, if you have a size small that's from the first generation pack, you may find it cuts into your armpits a little bit when you're biking, and we are fixing that. So
cool.
we do have a second generation coming out with redesigned front straps that should fit quite a bit better. you're having any discomfort in the armpits, I apologize for that. We're learning and we're innovating. We're going to continue refining the product. So and thank you for those people who have written with feedback about that. And that's part of kind of closing the loop in the design process and moving forward for the next iteration. But yeah, and we don't really focus on bike commuting at Zip Running, other than fixing problems like I just noted. Like if there's if there's something that comes up that's like, oh, and if using this for biking, it needs to be like this, not this. I'll take that into account. It's definitely in the back of my mind because it is very common for I myself am also a bike commuter. I think most run commuters probably bike commute at least part of the time or use a bike to get places. That wouldn't surprise me at all. So it's a definite need. And but Zip doesn't currently have any plans to make cycle specific products just because it's kind of a it's not as much of a need, and it's getting away from the core mission, which is running. But that's not because we don't approve of cycle commuting. It's just that there's so many great packs out there that are already made specifically for biking. And we've taken a lot of inspiration from a lot of those amazing brands that already make like these amazing bulletproof, weatherproof bags that look great and are perfect for bike commuting. So yeah, we're thinking about it, but it's not a main concern.
Yeah, I will add it rides just as good, just as well bike commuting, and I have tested that waterproof theory to an extreme lately here in the Midwest. It's been wild. We've had some torrential downpours, and pack held up, man. So kudos to that. So I kind of want to get into a little bit of your background. So we talked a little bit about a background in cross country skiing in the green room a little bit, but I do have a question kind of leading up to that and running. But so how did your cross country ski racing lead to running? And did cross country ski racing give any insight into the Zip pack?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I guess as cross country ski racers, we are some of the people that I think are most aware of climate change, because our passion sport is kind of melting away. And like last winter in Minnesota, it essentially didn't snow, and we probably got 4 inches of snow the entire winter, and it was like 50 degrees in February,
Wow.
which was pretty apocalyptic. And that I think it isn't entirely attributable to climate change alone. That was a freaky winter plus climate change, but it sure wouldn't have happened in the 1930s. I don't think. Back when it was like you probably couldn't even go to Minnesota in the winter because the snow drifts would be so high. So anyway, I've had climate change in the back of my mind for a while, and as projects would come up in school, I would kind of have it in the back of my head, and then when I was working as a design consultant, I'd be working on things that were potentially solving another problem, but it's obviously one of the huge problems of our time, if not the problem. So I see run commuting as I see Zip. It's no accident that I'm a cross country ski racer and that I'm doing an entrepreneurial project that I hope will have some positive effects on confronting the climate crisis. That's definitely related, and obviously run commuting isn't going to fix the problem alone, but it's I think you have to kind of play the cards you're dealt, and I think I found myself in a unique situation where I have the expertise as a runner and I have the expertise in product design. And it got to the point where there just didn't seem like there were any barriers to prevent me from test launching a small batch of products, just make a website, get a design. The upfront costs for doing a backpack are very low compared to any type of product that needs, tools to be constructed in a factory. Backpacks are just cut and sew, so it's really just the cost of the labor and the cost of the fabric. So, so it got to the point where I was like, well, I should just try it and see what happens, and then got some positive feedback. So I'm going with it, and I'm hoping that if I ever gain money and influence, I can then pivot to doing maybe something even more impactful, or maybe everyone just gets out of their cars and we're just running everywhere. But
Yes.
I don't know if everyone. I don't know if that's a complete solution. So I might try to pivot. Or Zip it does have aspirations to to donate a portion of the profits, like a 1% for the planet type of thing. We are not currently
Okay.
in the black, so I won't be doing that this year, or maybe this year, but not from last year. But I do want to give back to some climate organizations, which are actually is cross country skiers involved at the various highest levels of grassroots climate organization, like Bill McKibben, notably for 350.org, and a local Minnesotan hero, Jesse Diggins, and Alaskan ski racer, Gus Schumacher. They're involved in Protect Our Winters, which is another great nonprofit. So that was a little bit of a long answer to a short question, but it's a pretty important topic that I wanted to address.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to touch base on that again. I think it'd be cool. Like, I would like to do my part to promote anything that you guys are working on, even if it's not something I necessarily know a lot about, like cross country skiing. But as somebody I'm an avid outdoorsman or outdoors person, and also, I mean, I'm learning a little bit more. I'm trying to be more aware of like what the impact that I'm having on the environment too. And yeah, I'd like to do my part to maybe share this when you get it up and going. And I mean, I don't have a huge following, but I'd like to do my part to shout that out, not just the pack, but also those great causes too.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's go. Let's talk a little bit about your cross country history. When did that begin? How long have you been into that?
So I grew up in Minneapolis and St. Paul in Minnesota, and I think I started cross country skiing when I was like 4. And so I don't really remember learning to ski. I just always could ski. It was something my parents did on the weekends growing up, and we had some friends who lived up north on the Iron Range, and we'd just go out in the woods, and there's a bunch of there's so many ski trails in Minnesota. We'd go to the state parks, and it was all classic skiing back then. If for those of you who know your cross country skiing, and it wasn't really like a competitive thing. It was just basically like, instead of canoeing or hiking, we were in the summer, we'd go skiing in the winter. It's just kind of the way you get out in the woods. And then I always played, and there's great ski trails in the Twin Cities too. When we're having a less apocalyptic winter, there's actually quite a bit of skiing right in the city. So when I was growing up, I was really into soccer. That was my first competitive sport. And as I got a little bit older, I got more into soccer and started practicing a bit more and trying to get better. And then I got to high school, and I think I made the varsity soccer team. But I wasn't super good at soccer. I probably should have gone out for the cross country running team, which would have probably fit my aptitudes a little better. But I really enjoyed having something athletic to do after school and the social aspect of it. And like you're saying, coming home from work, it's so nice to get out of school and go just sprint to the soccer field. It's
Yeah.
just exactly what you need to do. So when it was winter, I was like, all right, I got to get a winter sport. Like, oh, what? And then I realized there's a cross country in Minnesota. We have high school cross country ski teams. So
Oh, wow.
it's like you can go out for basketball, volleyball, wrestling, swimming, hockey, or cross country skiing, or sometimes alpine skiing. Depending, not every school has all those sports, but so it's pretty accessible. And I figured, well, I already know how to ski. I'd never done any racing before, and at that point, I hadn't done any really serious running racing aside from occasional like gym class, mile running tests or something. But so I went out for the team, and it was pretty low key. We just went out on the golf course where they drive a snowmobile around, and you have ski tracks like right outside the school, and then the first ski meet happens like December 3rd or whatever, and I'd never done a ski race before, and I think I had like equipment that was not what the people winning the ski race had for sure. But I just had a blast. Like it was so hard. I realized I didn't actually know how to ski, but I was hooked. I was like, this is a cool sport. Like, and I could kind of feel like I could, if I practice more, I could probably get better at it. And I had some aptitude for it. And it's kind of cool. Like I, I like the aspect that like it was this kind of European or classic Olympic sport. It wasn't like going out for the soccer or baseball team. It's like this is unique. These are my people, and this is like it just was so exciting to discover this entirely new sport. So I started roller skiing in the summer. I joined a ski club. I started running to get in shape, and then I started running track, which is how I got into running. And discovered I had more aptitude for running than I did for playing soccer as well. And I would get better every winter. Because actually, I was a little late to the sport for competitive racing. A lot of the kids who are winning like junior national titles are probably racing when they're in junior high or when they're even younger. But I was able to make the ski team at Colby College in Maine, which is where I did my undergraduate. So I skied for Colby and I ran for Colby, and that was totally awesome. It was a great experience, and it kind of set me up for it. Definitely, I learned a lot in school, but I think what I was really passionate about was running and skiing, and I probably took more lessons from that, how to work at something and improve. And there's so many lessons you learn from athletics that you don't necessarily learn in the classroom. And and then that was also my first job after college, was cross country ski coach, and then working for the Lopet Foundation in Minneapolis, which they put together a fantastic urban ski festival, and they're all about connecting people to the outdoors. And so that was my first interaction with this amazing small entrepreneurial organization that had this mission-driven culture that was a really amazing. And I moved away from that. I started working for corporate America, but now it's great to be back to this entrepreneurial social mission.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm adding that to my bucket list. So cross country skiing just sounds so amazing to me. We don't get winters like that here, so yeah, that's fantastic.
You should come up and do the City of Lakes Lopet or the Birkebeiner in Wisconsin.
Okay, I'll have to keep that in mind. I'm always looking for new things to try. Not that I don't love running, but man, that sounds like great. Um, something good to do in the meantime. Cross training, right? I guess, but
Oh yeah.
um,
I mean, if you run ultra marathons, you have the fitness for it. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I'm definitely down to try that. That'd be so cool. Um, well, right. Uh, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I was kind of want to ask some rapid fire questions. Well, I guess first of them, my first one is there any projects any projects or events that you're working on for Zip that you can tell us about or kind of shout out that you're working on with Zip?
sure. Yeah. Like I mentioned, there is a redesign of the original commute pack coming out this fall,
Okay.
and the
Yeah.
main change there is, and I know you're happy with it, but
Oh
there
yeah,
there
yeah.
are things that can be improved, and there probably will always be things that can be improved. Um, what size do you have, by the way?
I think mine's a large.
Yeah.
I'm almost
Okay.
certain.
Yeah, that you wouldn't actually encounter the same fit issues in the large,
Okay.
but the hardest. It turns out that when I design for really large people, there's a lot of real estate for fitting small objects or medium-sized objects. Even if you're like
Yeah.
6'4", it doesn't. You could probably run with like a 17-inch laptop. It's probably not even an issue. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but if you take that same laptop and put it on someone who's like 5'2", it's like all of a sudden that's their entire back. And
Yeah.
it like you have this probably nice like your back's curved, but you have a nice like kind of flat spot on your back probably because you're probably over 6 feet tall, I assume, Joe.
I think I'm just 6 foot. I think
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
okay.
getting shorter as I get older, but
Well, in any case, you have more real estate than a 5 foot tall person for something like a laptop, and that even goes down to like the front pockets. Like we're trying to fit a cell phone in one of the front pockets.
yeah.
Same thing. I have much more real estate on Joe than I do on a tiny 5 foot tall person. So um, because of kind of uh, some of my inexperience when I started designing the commute pack, um, there are some there are some ways that we could reconfigure the straps to make it so that there aren't fit issues across the size line. And it turns out I think you'll I'll send you a new one, Joe, and I think you'll if you want. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you'll find that the bottle pockets are better.
Okay.
The mesh that we're using is a little bit nicer. The shoulders will be a little more padded. So then
Cool.
we're not changing the backpack back, like the main cargo area, very much at all. That's going to be pretty untouched. Um, so that's kind of a refresh, but pretty crucial. I wanted to make sure that before we ordered a lot more inventory, we got the design to a place where I felt really confident about it and that it would work for everyone, would work for biking, would work for small and large people. So
Cool.
the 2.0 will drop this fall. And also, we've been working on, and if you've been following Harvey Lewis very closely, you may have seen him wearing prototypes in the Barkley marathons and in his
Yeah.
other races. These have been what we're calling the FKC, the fastest known commute pack, which is our running vest, which obviously the original commute pack is kind of a running vest, but it's like half backpack, half running vest. The FKC will be a pure running vest, but we're
Ooh.
doing some. It's going to share the redesigned strap system or the architecture of it, and it'll be very adjustable. So that unlike most running vests, you'll be able to tighten it down and eliminate bounce that you may get when you're carrying like a water bladder or anything heavy. And
Yeah.
so it's my hope that it'll be able to carry like a small laptop, and it may depend on which laptop and how big you are, but I think I've been in the prototypes I've been running with. I can run with a 13-inch laptop, and it's pretty comfortable.
Oh man.
So the FKC will be for fast, light commutes for people that are prioritizing speed, or people who don't need to carry laptops, or people want to leave some stuff at work. There's all sorts of occasions, all different ways to run commute. So that I'm really excited about that product. And then we've had a couple other products, trying to do a few smaller accessories, and those are not coming out right now.
Okay.
And prioritizing the high margin, high impact items that are a little more innovative, like the packs that we're making. But I think there might be there's always design projects going on in the background to make sure that we can grow the company and solve run commute needs. So I think
Oh man.
in the future there will be also more full size backpacks
Okay.
that are like the commute pack that fill a different need, or like a, I don't know if the commute pack would eventually be replaced, but it might get a V3. There might be even more tweaks we can do to the main cargo area to make it even more optimized. So yeah, I've got a lot going on in the background.
Cool. Man, I can't wait to see all this happen because I'm a huge fan. Well, cool, John. Just real quick, tell everybody where you can find you, where you can find the pack, social media, and all that stuff, and then I'll let you
Sure.
go.
Yeah. Zip is ziprunning.com. The handle on Instagram is at ziprunning. I think we have a couple other social channels going. They're probably also at ziprunning. But Instagram's your best bet for social media. And if you need to get in touch with me, if you have any questions, John at ziprunning.com is my email address, and feel free to drop me a line. And I try to get back to all customers and run commuters who get in touch. So yeah, really appreciate you having me on, Joe. This has been fantastic.
Thanks for being on. I can't say enough about the pack. So I'll have to have you back on, man, so we can talk about this further as Zip grows. And I would like to get to know you better and more as this continues. And so, John, thank you so much for your time, and thank you everybody for listening and tuning in. Let me just add, if you like the podcast, give me a review, give me a 5-star review if you feel so inclined. It helps the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network grow, and we have great content coming to you with this network. So thank you all so much, and